Researchers cut exposure to misinformation on Facebook and Instagram by 70% for thousands of users, and they saw almost no change in what those users believed. A new study links compulsive dating app use to a weaker belief that love is meaningful and more transactional view of relationships. And a San Francisco billboard is advertising an AI chatbot where AI stands for average individual. Every day the news cycle produces roughly 1,000 stories. About 6 of them are about politics, and that's all anybody talks about. I went looking for the rest. This is News Side Quest. A major study conducted by UC Berkeley researchers in partnership with Meta, published this week in Science Advances after working through peer review, tested one of the most common assumptions in the misinformation policy debate: that people believe false things because they saw false things on social media, and that reducing false content will change what people believe. During the 3 months surrounding the 2020 election, researchers reduced participants' exposure to untrustworthy sources on Facebook and Instagram by roughly 70%. On Facebook, untrustworthy content in the main feed dropped from a little under 2% to just under 0.5%. On Instagram, it fell from 2.5% to just under 1%. The team selected 10 outcomes to measure in advance, including belief in false claims, trust in mainstream media, feeling towards the opposing political party, and views about the 2020 election. Across 20 primary measures, almost every estimate was close to zero. For 17 of them, the study could roll out anything more than a small effect. According to the lead researcher, quote, "The intervention was successful in the sense that it reduced what it was supposed to reduce. In this case, exposure to information from untrustworthy sources. But the resulting changes in attitude were much smaller than some would have expected," unquote. Most people on social media see very little content from sources that repeatedly spread misinformation. For half of Facebook users, this content made up a little over 1% or less of what they saw. About 23% of Facebook users and 11% of Instagram users accounted for roughly 80% of all the untrustworthy content consumed. So the misinformation problem is concentrated, heavily concentrated in a small subset of users, which means the blanket platform-wide approach of reducing untrustworthy content was always going to have limited impact on average beliefs, because average users weren't seeing much of it to begin with. The researcher who studies how misinformation permeates platforms added some context to the whole thing. Meta ended its third-party fact-checking in 2025. By the study author's own admission, the intervention they tested is no longer possible there. Its replacement, Community Notes, cuts resharing when notes appear, but typically arrives after posts have gone viral. If you're only going online to verify your priors, even less information gives you enough to find what you're looking for. The study suggests that while social media companies can change what people see, combating misinformation and political polarization may require confronting deeper forces that shape what people believe. The deeper force being a commitment to believing a particular thing regardless of what you encounter, driven by social identity, community membership, and what the people around you believe. Think about that for a second. Has a fact check, a correction, or a piece of information you encountered online ever actually changed your mind about something you believe? And if so, what made that one land when others didn't?
Professor, without knowing precisely what the danger is, would you say it's time for our viewers to crack each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside? Yes, I would, Kent.
A new study authored by researchers from Iran, Hungary, and Belgium looked at a little over 600 adults in their relationship with dating apps, porn, and a specific philosophical question. Do you believe romantic love is meaningful? The study of adults in Iran, of all places, found that compulsive addiction-like use of dating apps and adult videos was linked to weaker beliefs that romantic love is meaningful. People with higher problematic use also lean towards a more transactional, money-focused view of love and fell in love more quickly and indiscriminately. The falling in love more quickly finding is the counterintuitive one. You'd expect that people who see love as less meaningful would be harder to fall in love, more guarded and cynical. Instead, the research found the opposite. Compulsive app users were more likely to fall in love fast, but less selectively, suggesting that the relationship between app use and love isn't about becoming cold, it's about cheapening the currency. Love becomes something that happens easily and frequently, and precisely because it happens easily and frequently, it starts to feel less significant. Emotional investment can weaken when alternatives remain permanently visible. Users may disengage from potentially meaningful conversations just because another profile appears momentarily more stimulating or visually appealing. The design of dating apps is worth spending some time on because the researchers don't quite go there, but others have. The swipe mechanics mirroring market behavior, rapid assessment, low investment, easy exit. The gamification of dating introduces dopamine hits from matches, streaks of attention, and intermittent reinforcement, which encourage instant gratification while quietly eroding patience, trust, and depth. The good news is that using social media mindfully, staying aware rather than scrolling on autopilot, was linked to lower levels of problematic behaviors. Awareness is the key here. The same behavior with a different relationship to it produces completely different outcomes. Easy access to people on apps emphasizes how many fish are in the sea, so to speak, without guaranteeing they're actually decent options. And the research says exactly that. Abundance creates a perception problem, not just a time management problem. Has the existence of dating apps changed how you think about relationships, either your own search or what you expect from a relationship once you're in one? I remember back in my day, I had a hard time with them simply because early on I realized that if I was looking purely at what was on somebody's profile, I probably wouldn't be friends with the people I was friends with.
This concept of love confuses and infuriates us!
A billboard in San Francisco is marketing a service called ChatTJB, which the giant ad boasts is the leading chatbot interface powered by AI. In a tiny and partially obscured by a tree disclaimer on the bottom of the billboard, AI stands for average individual. When you chat with ChatTJB, you're actually chatting with a single human being named Tucker Bryant, an artist and former Google staffer. He said, quote, "I just built the worst large language model of all time, and it's about to revolutionize everything. Picture this, ChatGPT, but on the other end, it's just me giving bad advice manually." The ChatTJB About page describes it as artisanal intelligence, handcrafted by a single human being. Just for the record, this is satire, not fraud. The disclaimer is there, and that's the point. Brian pointed to the phenomenon of cognitive surrender to AI as his motivation for the project. Coined in a study by researchers at Wharton, it describes the tendency of chatbot users to outsource their critical thinking as they follow the confidently stated advice of chatbots, even when the advice is false or misleading. He said, quote, "We're now so used to confident, fast, and smart-sounding answers from AI that we've largely stopped questioning them. The second we drop into the soothing, dark interface, see the little thinking animation, and the text coming up letter by letter, critical thinking skills go out the window. If AI chatbots turn out to be 3 dogs in a trench coat, what are all the data centers for?" The Wharton research on cognitive surrender is real, and it describes something I think most regular users of AI tools have experienced. The moment the interface looks like AI, you interact with it differently than you would a fleshy human. We're less likely to push back and less likely to verify and more likely to accept a confident-sounding answer even when you know you should double-check. What Tucker's billboard illustrates is that the interface does the work independently of what's behind it. The aesthetic of AI, the dark theme and typing animation, and the authoritative tone is doing something to how people receive information that has nothing to do with whether the information is actually better or not. If you found out that an AI you'd been using was actually a human being reading and responding to your messages, would that bother you more or less than the reverse?
Bravo! That'll be hard to top. I pity the next tale of interest.
A New Jersey police officer dressed as a shrub issued 74 distracted driving tickets in 6 hours. He positioned himself in roadside shrubbery to observe drivers on their phones before stepping out to stop them. The moment when a bush walks up and taps your window is one of the more distinctive law enforcement experiences available.
Let him go, Lou. Someone going that fast has no time for a ticket.
Paleontologists have described a single fossil containing a petrosaur eaten by an ichthyosaur eaten by a pliosaur. What researchers are calling, with appropriate academic gravity, a three-way chomp fest. Personally, I prefer the term prehistoric turducken.
But life, finds a way.
A man in the UK killed his neighbor's koi fish because the sound of the water pump made him lose his mind. He was charged. If I were the neighbor, I would keep the pump running purely out of spite. A Little Debbie delivery truck driver was charged with a $17,000 fraud scheme after allegedly diverting his cargo to flea markets rather than his delivery route. I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable buying a ding-dong in a flea market.
I'm very disturbed by what just happened here.
That's it for News Side Quest. 3 questions out there for your consideration. Whether a fact check has ever actually changed your mind and what made it land. Whether dating apps have changed how you think about relationships. And whether you'd be more bothered by a human pretending to be AI or an AI pretending to be human. Email me at newsidequest@gmail.com or have your AI chatbot do it. Or pay a visit to the Substack comments. See you tomorrow.